Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Zach. Here we talk about overlanding in tech. And as you can see, I have installed the 4Runner platform into the vehicle. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. If you've been enjoying this build series this far, then please consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel because it helps me to continue to make awesome content like this. And it helps me know that you all enjoy these build series. And comment down below what you like about this platform that I've been building so far, or if you have any sort of questions, feel free to comment that down below. If there's specific content you'd like me to start covering, some of my upcoming content I have planned is a little bit different, and I'm trying to kind of get a feel for what you all like to watch the best. So comment that stuff down below. But with that being said, let's just jump right into sort of assembling all of these final parts and then installing the platform in the actual vehicle. So for the drawer, I threw some lacquer on the bottom and just polyurethaned it because I figured it would be nice to have a coat, maybe two, just so that it was slightly waterproof and a little more durable. But you never are gonna see this, and it faces towards the bed liner on the bottom, so it doesn't really matter what you do with it. The top I used a carpet on because I wanted to be able to stick patches to it. So I just did that as a nice way to be able to display patches, and I think it's gonna work out really well. On the sides, I did a stain, similarly to this side. And then inside the drawer, I had one side just stained, and then the other side I put carpet because I'll probably put recovery gear and tools on this side, and then camping gear and other stuff on this side that I don't think is gonna need to be in such a waterproof, super easy to clean place. However, this carpet is just glued in there with some staples. It wouldn't be impossible to remove that, sand it a bit, and put in some new stain or lacquer. But I kind of wanted to have like a nice side and then like a dirty stuff side. So that's how I laid it out. This middle bar, you could move back and forth wherever you felt was necessary. I picked right here because it needs to be off center slightly with where I put my latch. And also because on this side here, I measured it so that it would fit my socket set nicely in there. But honestly, you could put it really wherever. You could even put 3 dividers in if you'd like. I think you need at least 1 because it really helps square up the whole entire drawer and provide a more structurally sound design. So, and just to give another angle of the drawer, if you can see here, we have this notched out section throughout the whole entire top of this drawer. And the divider is 3/4 of an inch lower than the sides because when we stick our insert in, that's what we want so that this will be able to accommodate that insert and still fit everything under it. So, and then this is what I was talking about and how it needed to be offset. Due to the size of this lock and how tall I wanted my divider to be, I needed to slightly offset it. Now, so it's a really snug fit, and with the lacquer, it doesn't slide very easily. Now I think this will loosen up over time, but the reason that I did not make this the entire length of the drawer is, remember, the enclosure is this tall. Like, the front of the enclosure goes as high as the front of this drawer. But when we have our drawer inserts, so just to give an example, this is going to come up to right about here or so. It might come a little bit forward or a little bit back, but basically what you have to account for is I can't pull this all the way forward because there's a little space behind the drawer, and then there's the aluminum extruded section, which is gonna be about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So if I pushed it all the way forward to the back of the leg, that's not quite accurate. So let's slide that back a little bit. And my estimation was about right for what the size of this needs to be. So when these are pushed in, you could still store something taller in the front. So that was kind of my thinking, but at the same time, I cut out the grooves all the way forward because if you pull the drawer out and you want this all to be a working space, then you want to be able to pull this insert all the way to the front of the drawer. So I thought that would be helpful, and that's how I designed it. Obviously, you could change this design at any point for your own usage. I'm just trying to explain kind of my rationale for how I designed this, and hopefully that can help other people put together their own design. This has a little bit of play in it. Also, depending upon how the drawer might shift around a little bit, this might rattle down the trail. Now, an easy way to fix this will be to just put a little piece of felt with 3M on the inside of this, or on your piece of aluminum extrusion. Either one would be fine. I think I'm going to do that so that it prevents any rattling, but maybe for your situation when you're building it, it won't be an issue. Okay, so if you look right here is a little mounting bracket. And if we rotate more, there's another one right there and another one right there. And then there's even a bunch up in the front. See that one up in there too? So there's tons of these mounting points all on the roof of the platform as well, which really helps to square up everything, because basically if you have a right angle in one of these corners, for example over here, this right angle, there's a right angle up that side with the top and the side. There's a right angle on the top in that plane, but that whole thing could then tilt in other directions. And so this squares it up with other mounting points. So basically the fact that I have a screw there and a screw on this side, the plywood helps to prevent the piece of metal from warping and vice versa. So everything is pulling on each other. And so those screws, not only are they important for having the board anchored down, but they also are very structural. So I added a bunch of them. I think there's like 2 up in the top on the front up here. There's 2 or 3 as well. So I just added a bunch. Then I have multiple mounting points, just like this little nut and bolt, that are all around the bottom of this board so that the whole entire aluminum extrusion exoskeleton can anchor properly to this board. And it uses a little nut like this. So basically what you do is you pre-drill a hole in the board, and then you drill it the size of this cylinder on the nut. And then it's got these little teeth that dig into the wood and help anchor it in place. And so when you put a bolt down through the wood, it's going to hold on top due to the size of this footprint. And then on the bottom, this nut will grab and pull through the wood. So it works really well to anchor to wood. Now you may be wondering how I plan on mounting this whole entire aluminum extrusion board and setup in the 4Runner. And basically, there's a wedge that's behind the middle row that has 2 bolts. And so I've drilled holes in the front of this piece of bed-lined plywood so that I can put this inside of the vehicle and bolt the front down. So I want to show basically what you're removing. So this sits in a wedge-shaped shim between the seats and the trunk. See how the seats are slightly higher? So this sits right in there. So what I did is I removed it, and then I just used this bolt and it will thread through the plywood. So let's set you guys up so you can watch me set this thing in here, and then I'll show you how we're gonna bolt it down. So this is light, but it's by no means easily movable by yourself. You can pick it up like a typical box, but it probably weighs about 50 pounds without the drawer. I didn't really do this for complete weight reduction. I also did it because this stuff's really strong and it's gonna help me basically set up everything how I would like to keep it long term. And so there's more benefits than just the weight reduction. It's also the compact features, because this is gonna be awesome to have. And honestly, I don't know how you could fit this in a completely wood configuration without taking more headroom. So these can be a bit challenging to line up. I recommend using just a screwdriver, and you basically just turn them left multiple times until they line up. Obviously do however you need to get the screw to go in. It's pretty easy, but I just hook up a socket wrench and just give it a couple nice firm turns so that you know it's pulling tight on your plywood. They slide into their spots just like that. And then when you put up the seat, they're very close. So I'm hoping they won't slide around much, but it might be beneficial to put a little blanket in here or something as a spacer, just to make sure that they have no room to slide forward. But as you can see, I put the board, or I put their supporting piece of aluminum extrusion far enough forward so when they slide in there, they won't hit the back of the seat, or they won't hit the back of the seat and then fall down. So that should at least help some with noise. So basically, to fasten these back portions, we set the front of these inserts all the way forward on this little support that I've built, and then each one you can pull out from the enclosure and then lift up to each of these brackets. So I have 2 brackets here for the 40% seat, and I have 2 brackets here for the 60% seat. And you can pull out both or only one, however you want it configured. I presume that I'm only gonna have it configured as fully out because right now I only own a full size mattress. Once I purchase a single mattress, then I will just use that on the 60% side. But until I purchase that other mattress with the full mattress, it takes up the whole space. So I'll just have to pull out both sections. These have 2 bolts that are anchored to the main part of the frame, and then there's 3 bolts that go into each bracket on this part of the section. And the same exact configuration is for these 2 brackets over here. Another fantastic benefit of having it set up like this is there is so much room under this front portion. Even with these seats still in, there's a good 8 inches of clearance right here, so you can slide a lot of like camping chairs or duffel bags or things like that under here, and it goes all the way to the other side of this middle section of the vehicle. So lots of space. Then when it comes time to actually disassemble this and put it back inside your platform, you're just gonna loosen these bolts and we'll push this platform right back in to where it goes. Now, just so that you can probably see from up there, I've built this carpeted insert that goes in between the seat bottom and the seat back. And this is where the legs of the front middle section of the platform rest. So if I was gonna build this out completely, I would not just build one single long piece. I would also build a smaller one just for the 40% side and a smaller one just for the 60% side. But for the near future, when I know I'm gonna be using the full platform size, I just built this one. But eventually I will build a couple other inserts, and then I'll just pack the insert that I need for my trip. So that's essentially how it works. And then just to give you a different angle of disassembling this and pushing them in, I'll show you what it looks like from this side. Drop that down and then just push it into the insert. Now, you're probably wondering, why is this stuck like this? Well, the little bar in the back that will allow the back portion of these drawers to be supported, it's kind of hard to push these up. It really works best if I can open up the rear, push the drawer out, and then reach in and kind of push up on them to. So now that I've actually pushed the drawer back a little bit, it's much easier to push these in. You just reach under, lift it up high enough to go onto that shelf, and we're good to go. There. Now they're fully stored. And then this is the wood insert I was talking about. So basically, it's got a little portion on both sides that rests on the back of the headrests, and then also puts just some force on the tops of the seats, and it just pinches all in there and helps to support the weight. One big thing I will say is I was very careful to hammer down all of the staples because I just don't want them to cut anything, and that is also why this is carpeted, so that it doesn't put too much wear and tear on the leather of these seats. My plan was to store right in here behind the seat, just like this. So shouldn't take up too much space in the trunk and fits the contour well. So then when you lift up the seats, everything fits in there just fine. And you can use this whole entire row, and everything's packed along in case you might want to sleep in the vehicle and then use your seats and then go back and forth. So a lot of versatility. So it's pretty interesting between bolting these pieces of platform to the back of the platform and just the sheer weight of everything and it pressing down on this. The platform doesn't really rattle at all going down the road, and the middle section isn't necessarily bolted down to anything. However, you could pretty easily add something to the aluminum extrusions that would hook into these anchors on the backs of the seats. And I think that would just cause another way to pull everything together. So everything would be bolted to the back, so it would be pulled down where this is mounted to this wood plate. And then also it would pull the front down and kind of hook into this. So everything would be pulling on each other here, but then this seat really can't be pulled up or down because of how this is anchored back here. So I think that that would be a way that you could anchor this middle section if you were really worried about that. I'm still trying to decide whether I think that I need to do that or not, but it's very easy to add that in later. So as you can see, the drawer works just fine. Everything's been closed back up, and so now it's perfectly ready to be stored in the trunk of the vehicle when you don't need the platform for sleeping. Lastly, I want to mention that maybe you can see from there, but there are these pads that I put under each of these legs so that when these push back, they hit the pads and they won't rattle in the vehicle. I also have these pads on the tops of these bars where these drawers sit so that when they bounce inside here going down the road, they won't rattle. Additionally, if you look at the bottom of here, I have some T-nuts where these will anchor to the platform. I've put hot glue inside of these channels so that those T-nuts can't slide in under this wood to where I couldn't get to them. I would really like to hot glue these just into place so that it's very easy to thread the bolts in when I line everything up. But right now I just have to use an Allen wrench to line everything up and then I put the screw in. So down the road I will hot glue them into place, but I'm still figuring out the best way to do this so that they'll stay into place. Okay, so I showed you how we actually put the plate in the vehicle, but basically once the entire drawer and everything is all assembled and it's anchored to that plate will bolt in the front, and then this rear portion is just gonna hang out here. I have these support loops on the sides that I'm going to use to also anchor down. I'm not quite sure. I've been driving without those side anchors, and I think it holds it in just fine, but I'm gonna use those additional anchors just to make sure that this side can't lift at all going down or hitting a bump or that sort of thing. So there will be turnbuckles on both sides. Right now, that little cavity fits my Smittybilt air compressor almost perfectly, so that's pretty awesome. And if you're wondering just as far as a height comparison, these sides go almost perfectly to the top of the wheel wells. And so my previous platform I built was a little below them, and I found that my bed would kind of create a half pipe in the back half of the vehicle. But with this setup right now, the bed pretty much is completely level. Well, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. It means a ton that a lot of you are watching these build series all the way through. It takes a lot of effort and time to build something like this, let alone film it. So filming it so that you all can follow along and maybe build something similar, you know, using my designs as sort of inspiration, it really means a lot, and it's really fun. So that was one of the big reasons that I got into YouTube, was so that I could film some of the stuff I built and share it with you all in case that would maybe help people improve their setups. So this was the third of a 4 video series. So the 4th video is going to be a walk around of this platform, and that's the final video in this build series. And I'm going to show you how I pack it, how I put bedding on top of it, and you know, all that jazz, and how it actually will be used on the trail and on trips, and how I plan to set it up. Stay tuned for that. And also, if you've been following along and you really want to see the designs and a little more of a detailed breakdown of how I built this, I'm going to be publishing my plans on my website where you can basically purchase those if you really are hoping to use a detailed walkthrough of this to help design your own build. So that's not going to be official building advice, but it will be a document that goes into quite a bit of detail if you want to use some of that as inspiration for your own build. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.